Philadelphia's home of hard rock hits, 104.2 WDIG. Dig into this.
Welcome to Digging in the Dome. I'm your gracious host, Kevin Hartman. With me, as always, is Mr. Chris Morano. And we have a very special guest today. Super excited to have him with us. We know him from the band Octane, Philadelphia's own, back in the early 2000s. You may also know him from the band Foster Child. And you certainly know him from the motherfucking band Candlebox. Whose new album, Wolves, releases on September 17th. The single, My Weakness, is out now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Quinn.
Brian, Digging in the Dome.
Digging in the Dome, my friend.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here, man. We're excited to talk to you. And to Kevin's point, yes, Octane is how we know you. We actually played at least one or two times at Grape Street at the same time as you. We were in the band Desiderata. I probably don't remember that name.
Yeah,
you do.
We're talking about that. Yeah,
you're one of the three people that remembers that band. Good for you.
Well, Chris and I talked on a previous podcast. We were just saying how we had a guy who his name is Justin Lamb. Yes. And we talked about how, because he's a musician and he was out in LA, and we talked about how difficult it is when you're coming up and trying to do original music, how difficult it is to catch on, because we're from the Philadelphia area, all the Shore bars and stuff only wanted cover bands and stuff
only covers.
That.
That's it.
So catching on and trying to play those gigs at the smaller venues and stuff like that, you kind of just caught fire multiple times.
I know.
You nailed it out of the park a couple times with Octane and Foster Child. What do you remember? What are your biggest memories of coming up early in the 2000s in the Philly rock and roll and music scene?
Well, in the Philly, I guess, the Philly area, it definitely was tough because I had an original band at first called Visiting Black Hand, right before Octane. And then actually prior to that, before I had moved down to Philadelphia, I came up in the Wilkes-Barre hardcore scene. We used to play First Unitarian Church down here. We used to do L'Amour's in Brooklyn. We were, where I grew up in Pittston in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area was right in between. We were 90 minutes from Manhattan and 90 minutes from Philly. So we had lush music scenes on both ends from where we were up there. But at the time I was playing in hardcore bands because that was a kind of a big thing up where I grew up, skateboarding and snowboarding and punk and hardcore music. Oh, yeah. But when we spent all of our time in church basements and fire and everything else, man. So that's kind of really how I started cutting my teeth, touring and playing in bands. And I was young, 14, 15, 16 years old.
Yeah. You started playing guitar when you were 5, right? I was really young. Yeah.
Yeah. 5, maybe just 6 years old. And I started taking lessons when I was 8.
That's awesome.
So I was really interested in it. But as far as your question goes, the early 2000s, the one thing with Octane, once we finally got that together, I had already been in, played all the local bars, did Grave Street. And at the time it was the Pontiac before it went back to
Hell yeah.
Played there so many times.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and there was places I did was there was a place up in Tullytown, I want to say, that we played original shows up that way. But when Octane got together, we kind of got the best of both worlds there because Brian Bortnick, the singer, and I, we definitely deliberately went through with the plan to do original music and covers because, as you know, coming up in Philadelphia, the cover market here was just massive. All of those bands got more of an opportunity to play bigger rooms and better places, play down the shore. I mean, you're playing for thousands of people. You are playing other people's music, but you're still in front of thousands of people every weekend. So I said to Bortnick, I was like, if you want to get, we wanted to do metal, you know what I mean? There was no metal bands. Like we would have just been white noise if we did top 40 in the Philadelphia cover market. So, you know, I said to him, I was like, I want to do something heavier, man. I want to make a metal band. Like, let's go play Metallica and Slayer and Ozzy, because there's thousands of people sitting home on a Saturday night that won't go out because they just can't stand the top 40. I mean, you could, it's no knock. There's a lot of my friends in those cover bands, and it's no knock on any of them. But I mean, you could go to any one of those bars, multiple ones on a Friday or Saturday night, and literally set your watch to where Brown Eyed Girl is in the set.
You're like, God damn it. Can you get a little bit of variety? You guys are playing the same shit.
Yeah, they were all playing the same stuff. But it's, you know, much like songwriting, in the Philadelphia cover circuit, there's a formula, and that formula works, and it's tried and true. It's worked since the 70s, and people have made a lot of money doing it. So that said, you know, Brian and I was like, we need to figure out a way to tap into this, man, because there's money just sitting in the street as far as that goes. We could go play metal for all these people that are sitting home, get them out, fill these and still play the same clubs that all these other bands are playing, and, you know, pepper in our own original music. That's exactly what we did. We stuck to the plan. We didn't listen to anybody else about, oh, well, you got to throw this song in or that song in. The only thing that we kind of bent on was doing an an acoustic first set. So we would, you know, we would do 3 50-minute sets a night, but our first set was all acoustic. So, which opened it up to maybe, we could throw something a little more listener or pop friendly in, other than, you know, that wasn't Slayer or, you know, Eulogy by Tool, you know?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, coming up in that, I mean, still, man, we made a good amount of money, which kind of was the whole point, was to not have to work day jobs at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a really good experience. We had a lot of help from WYSP at that point too. Spike Eskin was a friend of mine, and he was one of my guitar students, in fact.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow.
To help us out. He was like, and I really never asked him for anything. We would just talk about it. And he was like, well, let me hear what you recorded. And I gave him a couple things. And one of the first things that I gave him was the song I For One.
Yeah, that's the one they played that a bunch of times on YSP. I remember hearing it.
He loved it. So he was like, I'm playing the song. I'm getting this played. So that was really kind of how it took off for Octane.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we crossed paths. So at the time we were playing, and we were doing similar to what you were doing. We were mixing in covers with our originals, and we were much more in line with kind of like the Linkin Park, Rage Against the Machine. We were like more hip hop centric with a heavier vibe to it. So we would play wild sets where we would like medley from like Green Jelly into Sir Mix-a-Lot into Rage Against the Machine, and then into like Black Sheep.
Oh yeah,
and like we were just wild,
System of the Down,
and then System, and like mixing our own stuff like that. And people we would play. You know, Doc Watson's would just book us. We would play upstairs at Doc Watson's, and they would just be like, "You're taking the whole night. It's all yours. Just do what you want." And we started doing that at Pontiac Grill. And then we started doing that
North Star too.
At North Star. And we started doing that at Old Grape Street, and then New Grape Street when they moved Grape Street to Chemistry, where Chemistry was, and then back to the old Grape Street. I mean, Scooter, I give a lot of props to Scooter, because he would book us with crazy good bands. Like we played with Silvertide. I don't know if you remember them back in the early 2000s. So we were playing with them at the same time we were playing at Grape Street, and bands like Octane, and it was wild because we were so out of control that it was hard for us to get those standing gigs until we started catching on and had some support. So
and this is your point. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. What you say?
No. What were you going to say, Chris?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, you mentioned the fact that it's the book, like you mentioned Spike, right? As in it's having like a couple of people. And we talked about this with Close Cash, Alavet, one of the other musicians that we have interviewed on the podcast recently. And it's the people that, frankly, that can get you, that support you, that appreciate you, not because you're looking for something necessarily, but because they dig what you're doing. And I think to your point, Scooter was one of those people. Bud, I believe the guy was the guy that booked it at Grape Street, right? Or I'm sorry, at Doc Watson. So, getting those kinds of people that actually help support you and get you into them and give you a chance to actually go and perform is really, especially when you're an original band, is really key.
Oh yeah. That definitely helped out a lot. The other thing was too, I graduated from Westchester University with a degree in teaching, and right out of school, I took a job at Tower Records in Northeast Philly.
Oh wow, nice. That's right.
What I found out, and the reason I took that job, and the money was terrible. I made some of the best friends of my life, who I'm still this day am friends with, and were big supporters of me, just because I was a hungry musician that I was going for. But I literally had taken that job because I had found out that the label reps would show up at every store trying to push their new bands. So at the time, Disturbed was just coming out, and it was bands of that ilk. There was it was like new metal type stuff that was coming out. The big Limp Bizkit record, the second one, was it $3 bill maybe? I forget which one it was.
Was that the hot dog one?
I think it was $3 bill, y'all. Maybe
Chocolate Starfish. I don't know.
No, it was the one before that. Whatever. It had like the kid spray painting on the front.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yep. $3 bill. Yeah.
But whatever. So it was. I knew that these label reps. I found out that these label reps were coming in Tower Records. So I took the job there deliberately to meet them. So I did start meeting them, and it's to build some relationships with them. And after a while, they're like, "Well, what do you do?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I got a demo. Give it to me." So a couple of those guys, I remember this one guy in particular, Earl Warren, his name was. A very, very nice guy. He was a sales rep for Roadrunner Records, which coming up in the hardcore scene, Roadrunner was like the pinnacle for us, man, because that's like Biohazard got signed to Roadrunner, and Life of Agony got signed to Roadrunner, and their big claim to fame ended up being Nickelback, which was oddly enough, which is what made the label just explode. But at the time, that was where hardcore and metal bands, that's who, you were big, you made big time if you got signed to Roadrunner in our eyes. Sepultura.
Sepultura.
I think did Slipknot start on Roadrunner? I
don't know if they did. They could have. I mean, very, very good possibility. I just remember the bands I remembered. So this guy Earl, I met him, and he had introduced me to the rep that was coming in from Universal, and that guy introduced me to an actual A&R agent. So I had an in there, and then met from there, I got introduced to an attorney who ended up taking over the legal contractual stuff for Octane.
Right.
So it was just, one of those things. It was just a big networking thing, man. Just a very deliberate, calculated networking thing that I wanted to, I wanted to do this for a living. And that was the only way I could figure to get my foot in the door, other than playing a ton of shows and practicing guitar for a ton of hours.
Yep. Yeah. So you were with Octane for 2000 to 2005. And then, you branched off and you started Foster Child, right? So that's essentially where you made that connection with Candlebox. That's where you met Kevin Martin. So like, what was that experience like? How did that kind of come to fruition?
Foster Child, we started out, we got some attention pretty quick because of Kevin Miller from Fuel was playing drums for us.
Right.
So, we ended up signing a record. We did a bunch of demos, and we signed a record contract with a Warner Brothers subsidiary. I mean, we were together maybe a year and a half. It wasn't very long, just because there was marquee value to the name. And, the stuff we're writing was, the label guys felt good about it. So they wanted to take a chance on us. We were kind of like right at the very tail end of actually getting an advance for signing a record contract.
Oh, wow.
Like the very, very end of it.
Yeah.
So we got a decent advance, and went and made a record. And
Independence Day, right?
Yeah, for Independence Day. And then we went to do a label showcase. We're going to do a label showcase in Manhattan for Stu Bergman and all the like the brass and at Warner Brothers. And it had just so happened that Candlebox was about to do a comeback record after a 6+ year hiatus. And Pete and Kevin from Candlebox were just going to do an acoustic set and open up. They didn't have the full band there. So it was them and who we were label mates with as well. And then they put us on last, of course, to make sure that, all the label everybody was gone home by the time we went on.
You're like, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, like that's just, that's the, like,
that's the way it goes.
Industry, man. So, but luckily enough, Kevin stuck around and a bunch of the label guys stuck around, and Foster Child went on and destroyed the place.
That's awesome.
We had it was one of the best, still to this day, one of the best sets of rock I've done in a band. Wow. And right when we got finished, Kevin was like, I need to talk to that guitar player and singer right now. So we went over and talked to Kevin. We ended up doing some opening dates with Gracious Few that he had with the guys from Live. And I think we did open for Candlebox maybe once or twice. And then Kevin and I just became friends, stayed in touch. And he had a side project going on with Morgan Rose from Seven Dust called Le Projet. And they were out at Live Studios in York in December of 2014. And he called me and he said, hey, I know you do session work. I'm in York, PA. You want to come out next week and lay down a couple solos? Mm-hmm. So I went out and I did, and it went great. Me and Morgan actually worked. We were like on a string, man. We just got along so well the way we worked together. And Kevin was really happy with it. And I didn't know that Candlebox had been looking for a guitar player at that point. I just was going in to do a session and getting my money and going home. But as it were, Candlebox was making personnel changes. Mm-hmm. And Kevin called me and said, well, we want you to do this thing with us, do some guitar playing with us in Le Projet. But would you be interested in that? And it was like, yeah, it was all good. And then, man, it wasn't much longer. Later than that, maybe a week or two, if that.
Wow.
That he called me about Candlebox, and I accepted that job as well. So I essentially ended up basically accepting both jobs on the same day.
You're like, yes.
Yeah. So I didn't do anything with Kevin Martin.
Yeah, seriously.
Apparently thrilled the guy. The guy's an amazing talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when Sugar Cookie came out, because you guys sampled the Saturday Night Live skit, the cowbell.
Yeah, we did.
Open that song. It was friggin' great, dude.
That's
I was
hilarious.
dying. I remember when that came out.
Yeah.
Fucking Christopher.
Yeah, the cowbell thing. That's funny. Yeah. I just haven't listened to the record in so long.
That's awesome.
It's so good. Yeah, we got on Preston and Steve once, but we had to take an alternative method to get on there because we weren't as popular as Octane. So we got one of our friends who went on to do like one of those drink a gallon of milk until you puke out of your eyes kind of contests. And then we got Preston and Steve to play one of our singles on Y100.
Oh my God.
Y100.
And puke he did. Right into a trash can.
Those are good friends, man. If they'll support your band by drinking enough milk to make you puke.
We needed a Steve O to get us into the like, come on, can we need you to do some jackassery to get us into Preston and Steve?
That's funny. Oh my God. The things that you'll do though, right? To get the brand name out there. It's not an easy thing. It really isn't. You gotta, like what you guys did and like what I did, you've got to find other ways to break in if it's, it's not right there. Cause you know how hard it is, like 1 in a million that an A&R agent just rolls into a show to see some other band and then sees your band. Next thing you know, you're signed. You know what I mean? Like
it's never like them movies, like where people are like, oh, like all of a sudden, like 10 minutes into being a band, they're like, we're going to sign you to Sony. You're like, that never fucking happens. Get out of here, man.
Well, that was why like playing with bands like you guys and then playing with bands like Silvertide, who got signed to had signed to a record deal out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
What's his name? Clive. Oh God, his name is.
Clive Davis signed.
Clive Davis signed that.
Yeah. he signed them. Then he signed them out of Abilene on South Street because that's where that's how we became friends with all those guys. They were kids. They were teenagers.
Yes.
They couldn't drink at the gig that we played with them at Grave Street. And they actually opened for us, which was insane.
Yeah.
Because at the time, because they were very much like, they were like Black Crowes, they were like, very, so like 70s soulful rock. And I remember seeing them playing because these kids fucking wail. One kid was playing guitar behind his back.
Yeah.
Like
they're sick.
They were insane. And then we heard like a couple weeks later that they had gotten signed, and we were like, "Damn, what if we were playing with them and they saw us?" I
want to say that Silvertide, so they went from that to like getting signed, and I think they had I want to say that for whatever reason sticking in my head, they had a song that was in an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yep. Yeah, Lady in the Water.
That's what it was. Exactly right.
Yep. And
yeah, they did.
That's nuts.
I think the song that was in that they covered Maggie's Farm by Bob Dylan. I'm a huge Dylan guy.
Oh, dude, that's a great song too.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we were surrounded by all these crazy talented musicians, and then we started getting some heat. And then all of a sudden, and you were talking about playing hardcore and punk and metal and stuff like that. So once we got a chance to go to New York, and then we started playing at CBGB's pretty regularly. I think we played there like 2 or 3 times at least.
Yep.
And then just getting to that point where we're like, holy shit. And we thought at that point, we're like, all right, this is it. This is going to happen for us. But you guys had a much more like kind of going back to particularly to Octane too. It was like, you guys kind of had like a almost meteoric rise. Like once you caught on and you were getting steady spins on like YSP and some of the other like rock stations in like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and stuff like that. And you, all of a sudden it was like you were playing like the same clubs that we were. And then all of a sudden, like you're playing New Year's Eve at Electric Factory.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It seemed like out of nowhere.
Yep.
Like, what was that like to kind of
go from one to the other?
Go from like playing, go from playing Pontiac Grill on South Street to all of a sudden you're playing New Year's Eve at friggin' Electric Factory in front of thousands.
Well, it was an exciting time for sure. I mean, the one thing that I guess the one thing you do notice, but you don't notice is that you're just playing bigger rooms because more people are showing up and more people are showing up. Then more people are showing up because we're putting the original stuff out, and we were getting some airplay on the radio, which was a huge help.
Oh, huge.
The other massive help was that we were writing in an ilk of the music that we were covering. So by that, I mean, people were walking up and they're like, what's that song that you guys played? It was like the 4th song of the second set. And it sounded like this, or it sounded like that. Or like Godsmack, or it sounded like this, or this band, or Disturbed. And we're like, well, no, that's one of ours. Like, can we buy that? And then we were like, oh, you know what? We should maybe really.
Can we buy that? You're like, yes. What did you have in mind?
Yeah. And then that's me and Brian started talking. I was like, we need to start saving some of this money we're making and go in and find an endorsement somewhere, do something and start recording. So we scraped together kind of what we had at that point was like very early on, but people were asking for our music. So we did a demo, and then we ended up landing an endorsement deal with Anheuser-Busch.
Oh, wow.
And they gave us they gave us, we were selling so much of their products at our gigs.
Yeah. And we were drinking so much of their products.
Drinking so much of their product at our gigs that they showed up. They just came to us, and Al Geary, who actually owned Abilene on South Street, was our manager and booking agent at the time. That's how we knew the Silvertide guys, because we would play Abilene ourselves quite a bit. And he went to Anheuser-Busch and was like, here's the numbers that these guys are moving of your products. And, like he had the wherewithal to do that. So they turned around and gave us like $30,000.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we had our own money. So we took all that money and went and asked Phil Nicolo at Studio 4 in Conchi. We said, how much money would it take to get a record done here? We're starting to get some attention and we want to do something, worthwhile. And he cut us a great deal, and we got to do a record with him, which was awesome. That was a very big thing for me. I'm sure for the other guys, but personally, it was a big thing for me just knowing all of the great bands that he had worked with in Philadelphia up until that point. And, just great bands from all over, really, but all the hit records that he had done. So, that we did that. And, it was really just, it just kind of snowballed. It wasn't anything, I guess it was planned to a point, but it just kind of took on a life of its own, especially after I For One hit the radio. And then when Gasoline came out, that's when everything went over the top. That's when we had a lot of labels around. That's when we ended up on tour with Disturbed and Three Doors Down and Seether and all these other bands. We just started getting some attention. We sold a ton of CDs at our shows.
So that's
sold like 20-some thousand.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that I think the and I'm not sure if it was the album or the single sold like 65,000 copies or something like that. The one that I For One, was that the single that sold that many, or was the album that that single was on?
Well, that was a spin. We had like a ton of spins on WYSP from when they put it on to when they stopped spinning it. Oh yeah. So yeah, it was probably a number. It was probably around there. It was a lot.
That's a lot. I mean, especially when you're like, look, if you're trying to get known, like getting that kind of play on a regular basis. Cause like those guys have rotations. I was a DJ. So those rotations of songs that are coming in, once you get into those kind of mixes, man, like you're getting noticed and people are hearing that. And especially when people are calling and requesting it and all that, it's pretty amazing. That's just, again, that's definitely I'm sure helped you greatly get to where you wanted to be. And now you're on tour with amazing bands, which is again, you think about where you started, those humble beginnings of where you started in those smaller clubs. And like you said, the Pontiac Grill, now you're on a tour bus with Disturbed. That's crazy.
Yeah. You got to think too, you got to remember too, the time frame we're talking about, like this is pre-social media.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
All grassroots.
This is pre SoundCloud or any of those other types of easily marketable digital era stuff that we have now. It wasn't, I mean, like you had to grind it out. I mean, I remember us like just making flyers and going to places and just getting out there. And then we recorded our first album at Sonic Studios on Chris's credit card.
We sure did. Never recovered.
And then, I mean, we had no fucking clue what we were doing. And we were sandwiched between like Tori Amos and Lance
Morissette was in there. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like because the Sonic Studios, they were doing Sonic sessions at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I remember. Fucking jamokes are in here.
Well, this fucking moron,
ungodly money.
This idiot goes up to fucking Robert Palmer and calls him Peter Gabriel, who proceeded to call him a bloody wanker.
We had no clue what we were doing, but we started getting play and we started meeting people, and then we did our second album. We did it with Mike Newseater at Milk Boy,
Arch 9mm, and Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like such a huge deal for us.
It was a big difference too in producers, man. Like going from the guy at Sonic Studio who if we were on fire, he wouldn't piss on us to put us out because he hated us so much, to Mike, who actually gave a shit about the music and made it sound good, which was cool.
And the guys from Milk Boy were awesome too.
They were great. Yeah.
Obviously they opened up their own venue and then we started playing there too. And I think that's one of our last shows was there in 2013. So so you're in foster child, you meet the guys from Candlebox. Now you're in Candlebox. Like is any part of you like, holy shit, what's going on? Like this is a band that was like stratospheric in the grunge era.
Multi-platinum
played fucking Woodstock 93. Like, how much of a mind fuck was that for you initially? Or were you just like, I'm supposed to be here?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess me and Kevin had been talking about it for like quite a while. He's always like, I got to get you in my band, man. We got to do a project together. We, just for all the years that I had known him. And I was like, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Full shit. Just saying that.
Yeah. Like, all right, dude, let's have some beers. Like, but, when it finally did happen, I guess when it really landed, cause I had talked to Kevin, he had called me like years ago. It was like, hey man, there's this opportunity to manage a rock club. Would you be interested in it? I was like, no, absolutely not. What I am interested in is playing guitar for you.
Yeah, right on. That's awesome.
There you go.
Started laughing. I was like, I don't want to manage a rock club, man. I want to play one, and he just started laughing about it. And we talk about that kind of often. But anyway, when it really landed for me was my first date with Candlebox. I had done, I was doing a tour run. I was playing slide guitar for Greg Allman's son, Michael. And I did a run with them. And it was basically like Kevin said, hey, when could you start? I said, listen, I committed to these guys. I'm not going to bail on them. Like, it's just not the right thing to do. And he totally understood and respected that. And I told him a date that I could start. And I finished the Michael Allman run, and I did like a solo acoustic in King of Prussia on like a Wednesday, and I flew out on a Thursday, and my first show with Candlebox was on a Friday. So my gig at King of Prussia, it was fine. It was like a happy hour or whatever. And there was maybe, 40 people at the bar. It was a cool gig. It was great. Friday night, I was in front of 20,000 people. And that was like, that's when I was like, oh my God.
Man.
Yeah. That's when it completely hit me. Like at the very end of that show, once it was finished, and I got through, because I had spent so many weeks learning the material and running over it, like in my studio, and just, I got to know this and try to remember this part. And like, what is this guy doing on the song? Like, you know what I mean? Just trying to figure all that. I was just so immersed into learning it. And that came from being in, learning all the cover music from Octane when we were in Octane, because we would learn that, all 10 minutes of Eulogy by Tool to the note, all 10 minutes of Master of Puppets to the note. So I wanted to make sure I had it down, and it, worked out, I guess. So that part of my music education really worked when I joined Candlebox. But yeah, it all kind of came full circle for me from start to finish, and knowing where I wanted to be in my career. Yeah. Like at the end of that first show, it was like the weight of the world just fell off me. It really felt like that. Like that was the most important breath I ever took, I felt.
Oh my God. I cannot imagine. Like you must have been shitting your pants walking onto the stage and seeing 20,000 people out there. You're like, holy shit. Like that has got, you said that you did some other stuff, with some other.
Imagine you're looking at Ed Connors at Screwballs and King of Prussia. And then the next day you're going to friggin' play in front of 20,000.
Yeah. You're like, this is a lot different.
I have to give Ed a lot of love. He hooked us up with each other and kind of reunited old heads that were in bands at the same time in the Philly area. So that's one of the things I just wanted to thank you for, is just being so like humble and well connected to the place that you came from.
Oh yeah.
Like there's really no reason other than your love of the game that to go to a place like Screwballs and do a cover, for 2 hours on a Friday afternoon, and just sit there, do a couple shots, drink a couple beers, and play some covers. Like you doing that, like it means a lot to people. It really does. I know Ed talks about it all the time. I know that my girlfriend's brother Ryan, who knows Brian, you and the other Brian, too many goddamn Brians.
But how many fucking Brians are there?
So I mean,
everybody that's into successful bands named Brian. You should change your name. I should change my name. Then maybe we'll get fucking noticed.
But I mean, just being so like down to earth and so connected still to the place that you came from, when you really technically don't have to be, is really super cool. And I'm super thankful for it. I know a lot of people are too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But that's great, man. It's encouraging to hear, because I didn't never even, that's kind of a different angle to hear it at, because I still do it. Like when I'm home off the road, and obviously now with the pandemic and everything, but I'll still continue to do it. It just, keeps my chops up. I think a lot of times, man, they're the hardest, they're the harder gigs to play, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A little more intimate, right?
More. Yeah. You're just kind of under a microscope a bit if people are paying attention, but it's like one of those, but luckily that they do, and they'll come out and get a decent crowd. I'll throw in a couple originals, but yeah, I don't mind doing that. And as far as like being humble and that was how I was raised, man. I was lucky enough to be raised by very good people. So, I never really subscribed, and I grew up just not impressed with any of the rock star shit. You know, it was like, I'm here to play music. I want to play music, make a couple bucks if I can. And that's kind of what I'm here to do. I didn't really care about all the
hoopla,
all the extraneous stuff that causes nothing but trouble in your life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there is, I'm sure, like you probably have seen some shit, because you've been on tour with some pretty, I mean, like just kind of like looking through the list of people that you've like shared stages with, like Ozzy, Metallica, or Deftones, like, you know, those are like bands where, you know, like Ozzy Osbourne is a fucking like that's an iconic rock star who I'm sure, especially in his heyday, got loose. And like, I'm sure like things get a little bit crazy on the road. So like, I'm like, to hear that you said, you know what, I'm just here for the music. That's really good. And I could tell, you know, just by the fact that, you know, again, you've started you've been playing since you were 5 years old. Obviously you knew that that's what you wanted to do, was your love for playing guitar that like carried you through. You're in a room that is literally lined on the left wall with nothing but guitars. There's two behind you. You're like the Desperado. You know how the Desperado guy has got guns in his case? Remember Antonio Banderas? Yeah. You've got guitars, all of them. They're everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, if someone needs to break out, then you could definitely do it. And it seems like you definitely have, just based on your different experiences, because Foster Child was more of a blues like rock band, right? Like he was more like that kind of style. So, you know, one of the things that we kind of prided ourselves on in Desiderata is that, and it partly because I think as musicians, we just didn't really like to like label ourselves one thing or the other. We wanted to play all kinds of music. So obviously you're based, and we were based in the foundation of hip hop. You're based in the foundation of metal, right? So like, what is your favorite kinds of music to play? What kind of styles do you like the most?
I like everything, to be honest with you. There's nothing that I don't like, really. I mean, to me, if I like it and I feel it's good, it's like, if it's good, it's good. I always say that, you know, like, I don't care what genre of music it is, whether it's rap or country or metal or rock or folk or bluegrass. Like I listen to a lot of different stuff. My favorite band, like as far as rock and metal goes, my favorite band ever is Ozzy era Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah.
So, and like Ozzy solo stuff, Randy Rhoads is my favorite player. So I'm a big Ozzy guy, but I'm also equally as big of a Bob Dylan and the band. Like I'm huge on the band, the Byrds, like a lot of the 60s classic rock stuff, which is all really at the end of the day, blues rock based stuff. I mean, it's just kind of an evolution of it, whether it's Sabbath or the Byrds or Dylan or in the band. I mean, it's all coming from the old school roots of Mississippi Delta blues music.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which I love. And I play a lot of slide guitar. Allman Brothers are another big one for me. So that was very huge for me, getting to play for an Allman. And not only play for an Allman, but play slide guitar for an Allman, because Dwayne Allman is another one of my biggest influences, and Warren Haynes as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I kind of like it all, man. It's, you know, on flights, I'll listen to Andre Segovia playing Bach. That's one of, you know, something that's a big go-to for me. I mean, you know, huge Jeff Buckley fan, huge Chris Cornell fan, like their solo stuff. I don't know.
And you played with Chris's brother too, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. Me and Chris's brother Pete just played together a couple weeks ago, and we'll be playing again together in November.
That's awesome.
So we had, how I had met Pete, we, before Foster Child kind of got rolling and got our record contract, Pete had a band called Black Market Radio, and they were out of Manhattan. They were a fantastic band. I loved them. And a couple of my other buddies also played in that band as well. I knew them. I knew they were on the New York, New Jersey circuit. You know, obviously Pete was from Seattle, living in New York at that point. But so we ended up doing a ton of shows together. And I kind of had some acquaintance relationships with some other Seattle guys. And when me and Pete met, we immediately clicked. And then I got the job at Candlebox. And it turned out that it was weird, because it turned out that his wife ended up becoming Candlebox manager, which I didn't know. Wow. I didn't know that he was married to Candlebox's manager at that. But it all kind of it was just the weirdest thing on how we ended up connecting, and then we reconnected, and then now we're in regular touch again, which is great because he's such a good dude, and I love his music that he wrote. So he invited me out. Candlebox is doing a reunion in November with all the original members. Okay, so I won't have anything to do with that. They do it every, it was supposed to happen last year. They do it every anniversary for the albums. And Pete Cornell was opening for Candlebox, and I had planned to go out there anyway. Kevin invites all of us, it's like one big family, whether you're a current member or former member, it doesn't matter. Like, we all get along great. It's the industry, man. It is what it is. So, yeah, we all hang out together. Like, if we're playing any city that one of the former member or original members live in, they come up and always play a couple songs with us, and happy to give them the guitar, man, because I wouldn't even have that gig if it wasn't for them,
Right.
Very cool.
And there's the humility.
So Pete invited me to play the acoustic set with him, opening for Candlebox.
That's awesome. There you go.
Yeah. Very cool.
And Pete was also very good friends with Dave Cruzen, who was our drummer for quite a while. Dave was a founding member of Pearl Jam.
Oh, wow.
He's the drummer on 10. And
Jesus,
did some writing. So Dave had been with us for years and years.
It's awesome. What's your go-to guitar these days?
He's got 5,000 of them back there.
What do you usually play? My friend Chris here, he was a Gibson Custom SG, if I remember correctly. That was his go-to. Yep. What's your?
Yeah, I've been with Gibson now. I don't know, for a while, probably like 7 years, 8 years.
Okay.
So, but I've always been a Les Paul player.
Okay.
Les Paul standards. So I've always just always played them. I love them. I like all the weight on the guitar. You know what I mean? The heavier, the better for me. So my number one is it's that center one, the center one back there. It's an 89 New Orleans era, super heavy, like standard Sunburst.
I think Chris just finished.
Nice. You can't see that. Why are you spoiling? Just because you heard it.
I mean, it's guitar player porn right now. He's fucking sweating.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I have. It's funny too, man. I got all my vintage Marshalls here on this wall, which you can't see. It's just out of focus. I have a bunch of my vintage Marshalls.
I already finished. I don't want to finish again. I don't think I'm too old for that shit. I can only go once.
Chris needs a nap now.
No.
Yeah, I'm a Les Paul Marshall guy, man. Just for acoustics, I've been using Guild for over 20 years as well. I love Guild acoustics, and Milwaukee Guitar Company just built me my own signature model. They're a company that make their thing is like semi-hollow bodies, really, is what he makes, kind of like thin line semi-hollow bodies. So he approached me. His name is Tyler Brenner, the outstanding luthier. He approached me, said, I want to make a guitar for you, take out on the road, and we'll do like your own customized pickups. So like everything top to bottom will be what you'd like. So, but there was certain parts of the guitar that already were like the semi-hollow body and, a big, thick, like 50s Telly and like 58 Les Paul, like baseball bat neck on it. Like
fat neck.
Love. So he built me we built like a Frankenstein of a Gibson ES 335 and like a mid 50s Telecaster.
Oh, and it's God, it must sound amazing.
It is, it is nasty. And I just got it a few weeks ago. We're working out there's some things on it that, I love most everything about it, but he said, play it for a bit and we'll make some tweaks. And I think we're going to talk about maybe doing a production guitar for it.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
How it's received. So, but as of right now, it's a one of a kind kind of.
That's very cool.
I'm kind of cool with it being the one of a kind.
Yeah, I don't need no one else needs to have this. This one's mine. I'll be the only one to have this. Thank you kindly.
So I think we're going to do another one. I don't want to chop this one up. So I think we're going to build another one and just kind of dial in, what I really like about it. And it's just a couple minor things, but the pickups in it are they're
ridiculous.
Absolutely awesome. It's the best. They're hand wound old PAF wire pickups, and they sound so good. They're literally probably the best humbuckers I've ever heard.
Damn,
that's incredible, man.
I lied. I finished again.
See, I'm a vocalist. We're annoying. We just fucking show up.
Right. You were annoying without the vocalist part.
He's not lying. So the new album's Wolves comes out on September 17th. So are you guys done? Are you in mastering? Is it wrapped up? Because I know your single's out. My Weakness is out now. The video is up on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken. So is the rest of the album done? Are you kind of wrapping things up on it, or are you ready to go with it?
No, it's all done. The album's done. It was finished. We finished recording it in October of 2019. Actually.
Holy shit.
Well, I guess the pandemic kind of
that put a monkey wrench into things for
seriously.
the entire world.
It was supposed to come out. It was supposed to be released in April of 2020. And just obviously because we couldn't tour it, there was really no point in releasing it, because we want to, you want to tour behind it. That's what's putting people in the seats. So, we held on to it. And, I know Kevin, really, that's kind of on Kevin. Once it's done being recorded, it's kind of up to him. He'll send us the mixes and, what does this need? Does this song need this? Does it need that? Like, would you like to hear? Everybody sends their notes in. And then once everything is kind of finalized, it goes to mastering. But yeah, it's all finished now. And it is what it is. It's weird having an album that's going to come out, almost 2 years later. You know what I mean? Because it's just even the ideas that, me and Kevin sat around with and screwed around with over the pandemic, and now to me, that's the new ideas.
That's what you're working on next.
It is a new, I know it's new for everybody else. So that's what's exciting. And I guess still new for me. I mean, there's a couple songs on there I'm still working through to figure out, because the way we record records is very, very fast and very frantic. We wrote, 12 or 13 songs in 5 days, and then went in and recorded them in 2 weeks. So by the time it's all done, on top of the sleep deprivation and everything else, once I get the album back, I'm like, what the hell did I play? I don't even remember what.
You don't remember it. Yeah. Cause you were just so in the moment. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. This entire folder and all these, this is the whole record right here.
Oh, wow. I take meticulous notes when we're in the studio, because I need to remember what I was doing and what position, what section that I'm doing the overdubbing in and everything. So it's this thick of every song, but the notes are completely meticulous. Thank God I do that while we're making the record, because when I went back and heard it, I was able to pick out. I'd go back into the notes and be like, oh, yep, yeah, I did that.
Right, you're like, whew, thank God I wrote that down.
Seriously.
Yeah, and you need to, because it's just way, way too much to remember.
Now you guys are going. I'm assuming that with the release of the album, are you guys going to do some touring now? Now things are opening back up again.
Tour dates are up, aren't they?
They're up now. No shit.
I just put them up a few hours ago. I saw that Kevin through our official social media had posted them. So yeah, that's all of our headlining ones. Now those dates. We're on a ton of festivals as well.
Oh, okay.
So the festivals. The ones that were up were all of our headlining dates. But yeah, I mean, we're running from right at the beginning of August all the way to the beginning of November, pretty much nonstop.
Are you excited to get back out on the road after almost 2 years of not being able to do it?
Yeah, I really am. The pandemic hit at almost a perfect point, because everybody was just so burned out, and not just in the band. I mean, I just kind of mean, it seemed to me everybody everywhere was just completely burned
Everybody
out.
hit the pause button for a minute. It's like,
yeah. And man, it was almost a blessing in disguise that it happened, because I was just fried. I needed a break. We just do not stop. We make a record, we go out on tour. We make a record, we go out on tour. It's just how we do. And that's how food stays on the table, So, at that point, 6 years deep, I was like, I just wanted a break, like a good break. And then, the guys, we would have like a 5 or 6 week break. But when I got home, I'd be doing the local gigs. So I didn't,
stop.
I never stopped. Yeah. So when this hit, I'm still enjoying my time home now. You know what I mean? But once I get back into, me and Kevin did an acoustic gig out in Oklahoma last week. That was the first time we saw each other in a year and a half. And the first time we're on stage together in a year and a half. And with it being an acoustic gig, I'm glad it was, because again, it's like a little more under a microscope.
Yeah.
So, and it went great. It was like, we never stopped. So that was really encouraging, I guess. And then it was also like, all right, I'm in a hotel room again, I'm traveling, I get used to the airport, going through the airport again.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool doing. I was like, oh, well, that was different. And so I would say, yes, I am excited to get back out there and do it again. We have a lot of really great shows coming up and a couple really cool tours. So,
are you coming to Philly at all? Because I took a quick look at the tour dates, because like you said, they just came up like right before I came over here to record, and I only caught a glimpse because I only saw Hershey and Pittsburgh out of PA.
There's Harrisburg too.
Or Harrisburg, excuse me.
Yeah, there's a Harrisburg and there's a Newark, New Jersey.
Yep.
The band doesn't play Philadelphia. I don't know why.
How dare you?
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know if it's a market thing. I wish I had an answer, because obviously being from here, I get asked all the time why we never play Philly, which is kind of odd, because just prior to joining the band, I had seen Candlebox twice at the TLA.
Yeah.
I had seen them come through. I know they have played Philly before.
Yes. It was that last one at the TLA. They got them. Maybe something bad happened. They're like, screw them.
That's kind of why I was curious, because it could just be the current state of venues in the Philly area, because things have changed a lot. Electric Factory ownership changed, and Electric Factory is not even an Electric Factory anymore.
Right.
What was the water company now?
I forgot. Jesus Christ. So they can't get a dad joke away from this guy over here. But like TLA is different now. I mean, you have the Met and you have Camden Waterfront, and because whatchamacallit that was on Columbus Boulevard, the outdoor venue.
What the hell is that? The pier?
Penn's Landing is gone too.
Yeah,
so it's a totally different scene within a couple of years now. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Maybe it did. I really don't know. I'd love to play Philly. Believe me, it'd be great to play Tower or the Man, or even Camden. I mean, I thought, a lot of these festivals we're doing, the only other artists we're on like multiple festivals with these same group of artists. And then we go and do like one or two of our own headline shows, but during one of those two headline shows is the MMRBQ, which they're all on and we're not.
Oh my! Come on, man!
And literally the day after the MMRBQ, we joined back up with them for these other festivals. So
that's nice.
Maybe it's just luck of the draw for Philly, or I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. It is what it is.
Maybe next time.
Well, now we'll just have an excuse to come and see you at one of your local gigs. I'll drag Chris out with me to.
You don't need to drag me anywhere. You don't think I want to get out of this house? You kidding me? Man, I'm happy to get out of here. So, hey, I had a question for you too. So, on just something that I saw that was really cool that you did, and it was in a very scary place. So I got to ask. So you played at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, in front of thousands of troops. That, I mean, it's Gitmo. That's terrifying. So, I'm sure the troops were super cool, but it couldn't be like a ruse to like trap you. Next thing you know, we don't see Brian anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So what was that like? What was that like playing there?
I was happy I wasn't on the business end of it.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
But that experience within itself was amazing. That island is absolutely beautiful. It's pretty much completely untouched, especially by tourism. So and especially the section of the island that we were on, we're in like the way like southeast corner of it, where Havana's like where Seattle would be in the States, and we were like basically where Florida is. as far as the island goes,
Right.
So, it was very beautiful. As my whole career, I've done a lot of work and shows and even charity work for the U.S. military.
Awesome.
So I was happy to do it when we got asked. Very close friend of mine was stationed there, deployed there. Actually, it was one of his deployments, and he had gotten it all set up. And we went down there and played. We got to stay. I think we were there like 6 or 7 days. It was a while, because normally how that would work is like you're in and you're out. Like they don't want you looking around too much. But
I guess not. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But it was what it was. They had there was a regular downtown with, a massive PX. It was a super Walmart, basically. It was like their PX was massive. They had Burger King, McDonald's, Irish bars, like an outdoor tiki bar. Like it was,
wow.
It's a military base, so they took great care of us, as the military always does. And
it's great.
We played the show on New Year's Eve. We went down there and spent that week leading up to New Year's Eve, and a day or two afterward. And we had a blast. We were down there. Bo Bice, who
nice. Yeah. Yep.
He was down there with his band. So, we did a bunch of stuff with those guys. So, it's a joint task force down there. So it's every section of the military. Right. So we went out with my friend is a naval officer. So the Navy, they took us out. We did like a boat tour of Guantanamo River, and went out in actual Guantanamo Bay, which was beautiful. We did like a fence line tour to show where they're, basically the border with Cuba, and we're up in the massive towers looking over into Cuba. They have the huge binoculars. Just stuff. That was kind of cool. So we were up at 0600 every day, and they had us doing activities. They didn't let us rest, and they wanted to make sure that we saw that they were, they were running it right down there, which they were. And they
cool. Make you get up early, man. You're like a rock star. You're like, I'm tired. It's 0600.
Ozzy wouldn't be having that. No. We're super jealous, because while you were doing that, we were trying to win Battle of the Bands on Gas House Radio, or trying to get into Origivation magazine.
No, actually, I think you're wrong. I think that we were playing Ludwig's Garden Restaurant in the middle of there's nothing worse than when you're coming up and you have to play those. I mean, it tempers you like steel. Like you have to go into those shitty gigs, because if you can make it through that, then you can go to the cool places. But first, there's Ludwig's Garden German restaurant where we're playing up a German. Whose idea was that? We were paid in bratwurst. Yes, exactly. Lederhosen. Exactly. That was a very strange gig.
What's your, out of all the places you've played, what besides obviously in the Philly area, what was a cool and playing for the troops in Gitmo? What was your favorite place to play?
Probably we've gone to South America a couple times, a few times actually, and the second trip down there for Lollapalooza was pretty amazing.
That's wild.
We played down there, and that was an experience. That was the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of, and it was just a sea of humanity down there, and everybody was so cool. And with it being a return trip there, we had made some good friends down there. So they took us out to all their local places. It's you're not there kind of in a tourist capacity, because you're with everybody that lives there, like friends of ours that are musicians that live there that know all the ins and outs of the place. So that was a really cool experience. And our backstage area, we were neighbors with the Eagles of death metal and Snoop Dogg.
Nice shit. Oh my God.
It was awesome. So we had a big, and there was a bunch of other bands. It was everybody had these tents, and it was they had this big common area out back. And after everybody got done playing, we're just hanging out in the courtyard, catching up, having beers, barbecuing food. It was cool.
Dude, nothing would be
Very cool.
cooler than fucking seeing like Eagles of Death Metal playing Snoop Dogg at Horseshoes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Totally
That's what it was.
Pairing.
Yeah, like that's not what I was expecting.
Oh, shit.
You can see the horseshoes through the clouds of smoke.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It was pretty wild there. Now, do you do like besides? Do you start doing like, so it sounds like you do a lot of traveling in the United States. Obviously we talked about Cuba a little bit. Have you done a lot of international travel? Have you played a lot of international places that were pretty cool or?
Yeah. I mean, a good clip of it. Like I said, down to South America a couple times. And then we've been to Europe a couple times. I love London. And we spent a couple weeks in Germany at one point, which that was very old and very beautiful. We've kind of trekked through Europe a bit, took the ferry from UK over to the mainland, like at Calais, over like going into Calais, France, which me being a World War II history major, that was pretty interesting. Like seeing the cliffs of Dover and leaving and knowing like you're landing right near where all of our guys, so many of our guys died protecting our freedom. It's a pretty amazing thing, which is, ties back to going and doing all of those military gigs. Is I'm happy to do it and happy to do it for nothing. If, they always make sure that we're compensated, but I would do it for free just because of the amount of blood that's been spilled, because for us to be able to do what we do.
We do. Yeah.
Exactly. 100%.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, man.
Yeah, it was great over there. I loved it. But yeah.
I don't know how much more time you have. I mean, we've been talking already for 90 minutes. So we don't want to. Yeah.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. 6:30.
Yeah, I didn't even realize.
I know.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
What are you, fucking a mathematician? We started at 5:30. You dope.
Oh, I don't know, man. All right, well, an hour then.
He's like, it's been 4 hours. I'm like, I don't know what kind of clock you're looking at.
Yeah, I said it feels like 4 hours. It's because of you.
You can suck it.
I just wanted a time check with you because I don't know how much time
be
you have.
Respectful of the time. That's the right thing to do. We appreciate it. So are you gonna? So obviously you said that you and your partners in Candlebox already are kind of thinking the next album after this one that's not even out yet. So are you guys going to get back in the studio? I mean, obviously you got to tour with this one. You gotta, your the last Candlebox album was very successful, and debuted at number 9 on the Billboard charts. Obviously well received. So like, what's the plan? Are you going to, obviously it seems like why not keep the wheels spinning, right? Go tour and then go back into the studio and do it again. Right.
Yeah, we'll probably do some writing after we get done in November. Mm-hmm. We usually take winters off. It's just not the safest time of year to be touring, especially in a bus. So we're usually off from, right around Thanksgiving until like end January or end February. I mean, we'll get back out like right around then, start back down south when it's getting a little bit warmer. But I'm sure we'll end up doing some writing. I'll open up an email every once in a while and Kevin will be like, I have a new idea. Check this out. So
that's awesome. That's great.
We'll just work on some stuff. I wrote a ton of ideas over the pandemic. I had a ton of ideas prior to it. And then I was just kind of waking up and saying, I'm going to write today, so I'll sit down. I have, man, at least, I'm probably creeping up on 100 different ideas of just pieces of songs which is a good thing and a bad thing because I need to just focus in.
I know. Yeah. I've been there. Yeah.
And they're just voice memo ideas that I'm sitting having coffee in the morning with. I have a guitar and an amp right next to right on the couch. So I'm like, sit there and just come up with ideas. So it's really just sifting through all of that. And, but I do mark them when I really like it. So I have a good clip of ideas that I'd like to go in the studio and put something together probably on our next break after I get a nice long vacation in somewhere warm. take my wife somewhere beautiful.
Dude, you know how I'm sure living with you is fantastic, but can you imagine if you were his roommate, right? And it's like 6 a.m, all you hear, oh my God, Jesus Christ, man. Warn me next time. Wake me up first. That's the way you definitely, that's gotta be rough.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Hopefully he's kind enough to not wake his wife up like he's Marty McFly with like the headphones connected to her
giant amp. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know if my wife would explain it as much of a dream come true as you just did. I'd like to think that she would.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, it's all right. I'm down. I get the studio in the basement. I keep pretty quiet. So yeah, it's nothing too crazy. But I've really enjoyed being home. I really have. But I am excited to get back to work.
Yeah. I mean, like, you look like
what I'm used to doing for the last 20 years.
We're excited to hear it too, man.
No doubt. You're like, you guys are going like, it's like every day you're boom, boom, boom. And you're going to keep moving for a couple of months, which is, that's gotta be exciting. And it's also gonna be very tiring too. I'm sure that you are glad when you're done, you could take a couple of months off to recover from that.
Yeah. Yep. And like Kevin man, I'll tell you, the guy's voice just gets stronger as he gets older. It's the craziest thing, but he really does. I mean, he's getting, it's more powerful. And the more we play like that, it's great. Now we do get some breaks. We get some days off in between. I think we're doing maybe 4 on, 2 off, and then maybe 2 on and 1 off. So, and they try to run that for him. But, for him doing it as long as he's been doing it to, 4 in a row is a pretty high ask of any singer.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah, Kevin, you're a vocalist. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's tough, man, and you got to do vocal exercises, and you got to drink the right stuff, and you got to eat the right stuff, and you got to rest when you're supposed to rest, and it's really difficult, and people sometimes don't understand like how hard it is. And some people don't do that, and then you see the results of it. We talked about, unfortunately, we talked about Vince Neil, his latest gig, and it was bad, man. It was sad to see. You see someone that you idolize just kind of fall off a cliff like that, and it's from not taking care of yourself. So you really got to be mindful of that.
That's true. Well, yeah, he also did some very, very hard living.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That is not. That's exactly what we were. But
that's what I mean by taking care of yourself.
Oh man,
it certainly shows.
Especially when you're like, God, man, like that's the guy that when you were growing up, that was the guy. You're like, that guy is a fucking rock star. And then you hear him now, and you're like, oh man, it's just depressing. You feel bad.
It's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, it does happen, man. I'll tell you, that's why I really do. People ask me about that all the time, and we were talking about it earlier about like all the rock star bullshit. I'm like, I'm very fortunate to be with guys in a band that like everybody, like no one's like that. And
everyone's level headed. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody kind of has we drink like on our nights off, we'll have a rager, but like nobody's, I couldn't be around that. It'd drive me crazy, especially the age I am now. My 20s, it's like one thing you're dealing with, people that are partying all the time. Yeah. But now in my 40s, and those guys got a few years on me. I couldn't even imagine it. That would drive me nuts. I would retire before I would go on the road and deal with that. Oh
yeah, so annoying, especially if you're not into that kind of thing. You just oh great, he's passed out again. I guess we're not doing because I drove up here for nothing. Thanks a lot. Jesus.
Yeah, or missing, or somebody not worrying if they're going to show up for the gig or not, or if they're have some kind of like outrageous drug relapse or something. Like we just never had to deal with any of that, and that's why I love being with these guys. But you could eat off the floor in our bus. Everything. It's clean and quiet, and everybody kind of respects one another.
I do actually have a question about that, because I've heard this about tour buses. So like, you guys have a strict rule about not shitting in the tour bus, because like apparently, like, because you don't like, it's not like it's not going to like trail out the back of it.
You mean if there's a bathroom in there, right? I would think that if there wasn't a bathroom, you're not allowed to. No shitting in the corner of the tour bus.
Your old roommate, maybe. No, but I guess that's the first question. I would assume that there's a bathroom in the tour bus. Is there a bathroom in the tour bus?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a bathroom in there. Some of them actually have the ones that have showers have what they call grinders. So if it was an extreme emergency, you could go number 2 on the bus. You could do a 10-200 on the bus. Extreme emergency.
Yeah, but like you're like, hey guys, if you just pinch it off until we get somewhere we can.
Yes, that's the general rule. Yeah, you just don't. We'll be at the venue very shortly, and you just don't do it on the bus. And it's not even it blows out the rest of the bus. Really, what it comes down to is the bus drivers don't want to clean it. So,
like, please don't move my bus.
Because they do have to empty the black tanks, and when you're getting into a whole different, no pun intended, a whole different bowl of pudding.
You're like
when you have a black tank filled with
brown. Yes, you're like I don't want to do this anymore. I would quit. I would be like, I'm not doing it. I'm leaving the bus here. I'm out of here.
He's like, I can drive this thing off the fucking bridge.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we're trusting that person to get us to point A to point B.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to like smart eye you when you're walking in the bus. I know one of you did it. Which one of you did it?
Yeah. So anyway, but the bus living, I'll tell you, it really is. And just touring in general, it's a skill, and it's something that you do have to get good at and get better at. Once you've got it down, it's good, but it is kind of like almost like a glorified camping. It's definitely a little more luxurious, I'd say, than camping, but you do have to get used to it just for simple things like that. So you technically have to plan your meals.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Because you're going to be, so you have to know when you're going to eat and like kind of keep your body's on some kind of regular schedule, because if you're going to be on a bus for 14 hours, if they have to stop for an emergency, they absolutely will. I'm saying to go on the bus, it is the absolute extreme emergency. Like, you're going to wreck the bus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you know like your bandmates well enough, you'd be like, all right, I know that if you eat that hoagie right now, that in about 4 hours, you're going to have to shit. So we're going to plan accordingly here. Just,
Yeah. And you'll know, like, because it's, you never really get it like into REM sleep on a bus.
That's gotta be really tough. Yeah.
Well, the second you hear a rumble strip,
yeah, exactly.
You're up.
Yep.
Okay, I'm up. So but you get used to it, man. And once we're parked, everybody usually kind of gets a couple hours during the day. Like, once we're parked at the venue and in between like lunch and sound check, everybody will do like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then it'll kind of recharge you that way. But yeah, again, like I said, it's kind of it's a skill. You got to get good at it.
Yeah, I would imagine too. Like, you got a lot of time to kill on the bus. So what do you do? Like, you're not. I have to imagine, as much as you guys love each other and as you play music together, you're playing music all the time anyway. So you're probably not like sitting there practicing for like 14 hours straight on the bus. I would doubt that. So what do you guys do to keep yourselves entertained? Like, you just stare at each other? Like, what do you read books? Do you play games?
Yeah, we're not really on top of each other all that much. I mean, just, we have 8 people on a bunk or on a bus that could hold 12.
Oh, so, all right.
Everybody like gets up at different times. Like me and Cruisin we were like super early risers. So me and him would be up at like 5:30, 6 a.m. We'd go and get breakfast, hang out, and then come back. And by the time we're getting back, some other guys might be up by then. Then they're just getting ready to go to breakfast. So we're never really on top of one another. We're not all on the same schedule until about 4 p.m. Then from there on, like with sound check and dinner and catering and everything, then we're on the same schedule when we see each other until nighttime. But yeah, during the day, nothing really. My guitar tech and myself, we're pretty avid golfers. So
okay, sweet.
We'll go and golf. So
right on.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Whatever you could do to kill time. I do practice a lot.
I'm sure.
I'll do video lessons. I do online lessons when I'm out, just to kind of have money, make money.
Yeah, just teach people too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we find ways to kill time.
Very cool, man. So teaching guitar. So Chris taught guitar while we were in the band and after, and he was teaching like suburban neighborhood kids.
Yes.
Do you find in this time that it's harder to get people to dedicate themselves and to learn, guitar where, in the past when there wasn't so much, instant gratification from other resources, other stimulus. Do you find it harder to teach people guitar now than it was, back in the early 2000s? Because you're a teacher, a regular teacher on top of also being able to teach guitar.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was harder. I mean, I've been doing it for so long. I started teaching when I was like 15. So I just kind of set out a plan to do how I was taught and just kind of stuck with that plan. Yeah,
I just meant the students in general, the people that you're teaching.
Are you saying their attitude towards it?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if people come to me, they want to learn.
They're serious.
You know what I mean?
They're serious. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're serious about doing it. And I always say, I'm like, well, if you're serious about doing it, then yeah, we're going to do it. Like, and I don't want you to take for a month and then stop. Like if you're dedicated into getting into this and staying with it, at least for a while, I'm more than happy to show you, because I do enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, that's something that you should share. Right.
Yeah. If you have the skill and you have the patience to do it, maybe.
Yeah. It's not cool something I don't know if I'd want to live a life where I wasn't willing to share, having that talent to be able to do that,
Yeah, where, Chris's students just wanted to learn Ed Sheeran songs, and
right.
You have to talk Chris off the roof.
I would tell the parents, like, before I started teaching them, like, look, your kid is going to want to be like shredding immediately. This is not going to happen for a while. Like, they're not going to be able to even actually, like, they have to, like, you have to learn how to hold the guitar. You need to learn to strum it. Like, you have to know how to, like, putting your hand on the bridge. Like, if you could do the neck of the guitar, you could do that completely wrong and fuck your hand up. Like, and I know that because I started off wrong and I had to get corrected. So, like,
yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so those kinds of things that you have to, like, explain to a parent, because the parents can be like, well, why aren't they, like, playing guitar behind their head and, like, like doing rocking solos they're like playing. Like, I'm like, it's going to be a dedication. And I would tell the kid too, I'm like, look, you have to dedicate yourself to practice perfectly as much as you can, and you have to do it every single time. Because I don't want to come here in a couple of days and see that you haven't made any progress or that you forgot everything that we went through. If you were serious about it, then be serious about it, to your point.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and the other thing too is, like, I know when someone's not going to be serious about it because I've done it for so long. Yeah, you just know when someone hasn't practiced. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're like, you know nothing.
Immediately, like, yeah, I spent a few hours on it.
They didn't.
Spent 0 hours on it. Oh, yeah.
Yes, you spent no hours on it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If you had spent hours on it, you sit on the guitar case. That's what you've been sitting on.
Well, and like anybody else in the world, man, it's like a value my time, and I think time is like the most valuable thing you can give anyone. So it's like, if I'm gonna, give my dear, and you are paying for it, but I'm not trying to rob you.
Right. Exactly. I'm not going to take your money.
We want to teach you how to play guitar.
Well, yeah, it's rewarding too as a teacher. You know this, like, when you teach somebody something new and they get it and they start getting good at it, you're like, that's awesome. Like, you feel so good about them progressing, and there was, that's the rewarding part of it, besides, I mean, the money, whatever, it's the rewarding part is watching somebody learn something new and, like, actually getting it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then being excited about it.
And being excited about it too. Yes, exactly. For sure.
So I have one last question for you. Sure. Before we let you go. So is there anybody that you haven't played with that you're like, man, I really hope at some point that we get to tour with this band, or that you go and see regularly, like you're still, like, blown away by, like
you fanboy out to?
Yeah.
A bit.
Besides Ozzy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've already played with, so that I got to check that off the list, which was kind of cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And it was supposed to happen last year, and there's no more talk of it, but I've always wanted to go out on the road with the Cult. They're one of my favorite bands ever. And I've had friends that have toured with them, and it was so close to happening last year, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like,
you're like, no.
I was like, if I tour with the Cult, or even do some shows with, like, doing some shows with Guns N' Roses would be great, but I'm just getting to do a full tour with the Cult and if you play with Guns N' Roses, I always said like a tour with the Cult or getting to play. If I ever play Donington in England, Castle Donington, I'm good. That's all my check marks. I will retire a happy man.
That's very cool.
That's amazing. Well, listen, Brian, we want to thank you for joining us. This has been a pleasure all on this side, I'm sure.
Unbelievable, man.
This really so cool to first of all, again, it's going back years and years and years, but we actually did get a chance to play with you before, and to see that you've progressed and done so much more than we have is pretty amazing.
I don't know, man. We've made our mark in the corporate game. we're senior managers and above.
Whatever. Like I'm saying,
to that point, though.
Yeah.
To that point, I always said if you've made money playing music, you're successful. If you've made money doing anything in music, like whether you're writing it or performing it or teaching it, if you're making money and have actually contributed to your income as anything music related, to me, that's successful. You know what I mean? So it just kept going for me. You know what I mean? I never got out of it. So it was just one of those things that it just, one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. I was like, I still enjoy doing it. That's why I just kept doing it.
Yeah. We kept doing it without the success too. I mean, we were doing it up until like I said, our last gig was sometime in like mid 2013. So, we were
doing it for the love of it.
Yeah. We were just doing it because we loved playing music so much. And sometimes we made money, sometimes we didn't. So I thoroughly enjoy seeing someone who started or was playing at the same places as us at the same time have the tremendous amount of success that you've had, because, the three people here at this table right now, I mean, we all love music, and we would still be playing if we didn't run headlong into some of the bullshit band stuff that bands break up because of, that you talked about before. We had an indie record deal in front of us, and egos and other shit got in the way of it.
Yep.
We're not only are we thankful for you being here with us today, we're certainly appreciative of what you've done and continue to do in music. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And everybody go check out Candlebox and check out Candlebox. Their new album, Wolves, is coming out in September. Their single, My Weakness, is out now. So go check that out. I believe the website is Candlebox Rocks. And that might be Candlebox Rocks with an X. I'm actually checking it now, so I don't give you it's ROCKS. So you're not going to go to a Candlebox place that sells candle boxes and rocks. But candleboxrocks.com for the tour dates that's starting up in September. Brian Quinn, we thank you so much for joining us on Digging in the Dome, and we hope to have you back real soon.
Absolutely, man.
Goodbye. And good night. Bang!